All right, guys. So we're going to dig into a little bit of some claims and some fact checking regarding those claims, assuming the kittens allow me to get through this. All right, I'm going to start with an article by The Guardian. So let's go ahead and get into this. Trump and other Republicans mock Democrats after Minnesota lawmaker killings. While many in GOP condemn attacks, President calls Tim Walz terrible governor and Musk pushes misinformation. The Utah Senator Mike Lee sounded like a lot of other Republican politicians after the fatal shootings of Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota this weekend. These hateful attacks have no place in Utah, Minnesota, or anywhere in America. Please join me in condemning this senseless violence and praying for the victims and their families, he wrote on Twitter/X. That was from his official account. On his personal X account, he posted a series of memes concerning the attacks that left former Minnesota State House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark dead, and State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette seriously injured. This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way, Lee posted, along with a photo of the alleged gunman who was arrested on Sunday. He followed that up by posting the photo and writing "Nightmare on Wall Street," an apparent misspelling of Tim Walz, the state's Democratic governor, who became nationally known last year as Kamala Harris's running mate. I'm going to take a break for a moment. I want you to note this behavior because it's something that we see over and over and over again from the right. It's happened for decades now. So they prey on something that a lot of Americans fear. Like, they still do this, by the way, but they'll either call someone a communist or a Marxist with absolutely no evidence to support either of those claims. So we're at a point where they throw this out as like an emotional tool to get people rallied, regardless of whether it's true or not. And they sort of use it as a catch-all. It's literally to the point where if a right-winger says that someone's a communist or a Marxist, it doesn't even mean anything anymore because it's like attached to anything they don't like. Anything. It doesn't matter. Like, it could be the exact same beliefs that they espouse, and it's coming from someone that's like a Democrat, for example, and they will call and they'll go against it and call it Marxist or whatever, just to like spite the opposing side because they're fucking retarded. But anyhow, before I get ahead of myself, I'm going to continue. Such was the split screen that played out among Republicans after the Saturday morning shootings, which were the latest in a wave of political violence across the United States that has most recently seen 2 assassination attempts targeting Donald Trump as he campaigned for president, a flamethrower attack on a rally for Israeli hostages in Colorado, and a slew of threats targeting judges who have ruled against the U.S. president. While many in the GOP condemned the attacks in Minnesota, others have used it as an opportunity to poke fun at their Democratic opponents or suggest that they somehow instigated the violence. Experts warn it may be the latter statements that reach the bigger audience. I think there's no question that these messages are representative of the modern GOP, more so than any stock thoughts and prayers tweet that a staffer puts up, said John Lewis, a research fellow at George Washington University's program on extremism. Democrats have been unequivocal in condemning the shootings, as have Congress's top Republicans. Such horrific political violence has no place in our society, and every leader must unequivocally condemn it, said House Speaker Mike Johnson. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said he was horrified at the events unfolding in Minnesota and that political violence has no place in our nation. Minnesota's Republican Party condemned the shooting, as did the state's entire congressional delegation. But when it comes to Trump and his most vociferous allies on social media, the message is more mixed. Trump initially condemned the attack, saying on Saturday, "Such horrific violence will not be tolerated in the United States of America. God bless and the great people of Minnesota, a truly great place." But the following day, he struck a different tone, telling ABC News that the shooting was, quote, "a terrible thing," but calling Walz, quote, "a terrible governor," end quote, a grossly incompetent person. Quote, I may call him, I may call other people too, he added. On Monday afternoon, Walz's office said Trump had not called. Meanwhile, on X, prominent right-wing figures were quick to promote conspiracy theories about what happened. Elon Musk, the erstwhile Trump sidekick who runs Tesla, shared a tweet from a pro-Trump account that read in part, the left has become a full-blown domestic terrorist organization. The far left is murderously violent, Musk wrote in his reply, which Lee shared, adding, fact check, true. Laura Loomer, the right-wing extremist who is said to have played a role in encouraging Trump to fire national security officials, alleged the suspect had ties to the, quote, No Kings protests that took place nationwide on Saturday and that Walz knew him. The spread of outlandish falsehoods and conspiracy theories on social media has been a hallmark of the atmosphere Trump has brought to U.S. politics over the last decade. And Lewis believes the country is now at a point where such fabrications have more prominence than politicians' carefully written statements. The real problem now is that nothing matters, and I think that has been realized by the mainstream right in this country. There are no consequences for peddling disinformation or conspiracies, he said. Robert Pape, director of the University of Chicago Project on Security and Threats, said that the United States has entered an era of violent populism, and if Democrats and Republicans want to stop it, they need to issue joint statements speaking out against atrocities like what happened in Minnesota. You've got to start having some agreement here on negotiating these rules of the road, so to speak, because if each side continues to simply only accept unconditional surrender by the other, well, then just like in Ukraine, you're not going to end this thing very, very soon, and things will just escalate, Pape said. So that's the end of the article. First, I want to say that this is what we see a lot. You'll get a news organization and they want to appear like they're being neutral. But by doing so, they're making the right look better than they are. He's just being dishonest here. So why do I say that? Because the left and the right, and right now I'm talking about Congress, or like actual politicians, not people, but the left have come out unequivocally and have across the board stated that this sort of thing cannot be accepted. And by the way, even in the few cases where leftists have done some sort of like extremist crime, they all come out and say that exact same thing. That does not happen on the right, which is why him doing this little, like trying to be, quote, neutral automatically makes it not neutral because he's covering for the right. That may not be his intention or him or her, but that's what's happening because you're doing this middle ground fallacy. Like all politics is like equal, like the extremes on both sides are just the same. That's bullshit. All of the evidence points to the contrary. So again, we have all these lies and they tend to come from Republicans because that's all they do is fucking lie, that these people are Marxists, whatever. And by the way, now we have evidence that the person here, it shows in this picture, I can't remember his name, but he's a Trump supporter. And he's also like an extreme fucking Christian. He spent time trying to like convert people in another country or something. I can't remember which country. But yeah, he wasn't welcome. But he's one of those extreme, hardcore religious right nuts and an avid Trump supporter. Yet, they try to tie him to the No Kings protests, and they try to tie them to communism and Marxist when it couldn't possibly be further from the truth. They desperately wanted him to be a left-winger, and he's not. He's a right-winger. But we're going to go even further. We're going to look at this claim and this misinformation that yet again, over and over, Trump and Elon Musk pushes. So the far left is murderously violent. He's not on the left. He's on the right. So Lee jumped in saying, fact check, true. Fact check. You're both pieces of shit. Fucking lying motherfuckers, and you lose yet again. Like, owning you guys is the easiest thing in the fucking world, because right-wingers in general don't ever fact check anything. They just automatically believe anything that Daddy Trump or Elon Musk says, or their other Republican or fucking politicians. They just constantly lie, and no one gives a fuck or even tries to fact check. Either they're incompetent, they're lazy, they're stupid, or I don't even know, maybe a combination of all of the above. But let's go ahead and do some fact checking here. It won't take long. This is always very easy. I don't know why people are like allergic to it. So now we have a PRRI survey from 2021 to 2024. This is support for political violence over time by party affiliation. This represents the percent who agree that because things have gotten so far off track, true American patriots may have to resort to violence in order to save our country. So first, we'll look at all Americans, which is the gray line. In 2021, it was 15%. In 2024, it's risen a little bit to 18%. Now we look at Democrats, who are the blue line, 7% in 2021, slightly rising to 8% in 2024. Now we have the red line, which represents Republicans, 28% in 2021, 29% in 2024. Now, in all of these cases, it has slightly risen over time, at least over these 4 years. But I want you to notice how huge the difference is from, okay, at least in 2024, last year, 8 when compared to 18 is all Americans, 29% is Republicans. 29%, think about that. That's over a quarter of all Republicans say that American patriots may have to resort to violence in order to save our country because they've been lied to about all sorts of shit, and they don't fact check anything. They're a bunch of idiots. But beside the case, they're also more violent. They're just innately more violent. They're evil. That's just the truth. That's not because I'm on the left. That's simply evident by the fucking all of the data. So let's once again, 8% to 29%. That's like 4 fucking times the amount. Yet they want you to believe that it's leftists that are causing all of this extreme violence. It doesn't add up, does it? Not only is all Americans higher, much higher, it's showing you the extent at which Democrats are the peaceful people. Like, extremely the case. Here's another from the exact same, it's from PRRI. Favorability of Donald Trump over time among Republicans and white evangelical Protestants. Percent who hold a favorable view of Donald Trump. This goes from 2015 to 2024. So all Americans, gray line, we'll start there. 30% in 2015. It's remained roughly the same, but slightly rising, but it kind of ticked up from 2023 to 2024, going up to 41% in 2024. Now we've got white evangelical Protestants. We'll note, I shouldn't need to say this, a vast, vast majority of white evangelical Protestants are right-wingers. Shouldn't need to say that, but I will anyway. 48% in 2015, gradual rise to 72% in 2024. That's a pretty massive fucking jump. And then we've got Republicans, 58%. Now you'll notice, as tends to be the case in all of these, it doesn't, like, the lines don't overlap and jump all over the place depending on what's going on politically during these years. It is always Republicans. It's always right-wingers that are causing fucking shit. And this, for here at least, This is people's favorability of Donald Trump. Now, what I'm doing is I'm showing you the correlation between these violent acts and how much they like Donald Trump. And I'll go a little further here in a moment. But anyway, 58%, 2015, 2024, 84%. It makes sense. But anyway, so now we're going to look at another. Murders connected to political extremism by type. This is from 2012 to 2021. 55%, a vast, vast majority of all murders connected to political extremism, right here, is white supremacy. I've never found a white supremacist on the left, period, ever. It doesn't happen. They're all right-wingers. Anti-government, 14%, the next highest by quite a decent margin. Anti-government is your fucking, what's that fucking word? Libertarian fucking right-wingers. And then we've got other right-wingers, which is 6%. We've got Islamists at 20%. They're kind of like in between, like they're at least in this graph, they're not considered left or right wing. Left wing, 4%. Look at the massive fucking difference. Other, 1%. So again, all of this rhetoric about the extremist Marxist and the ultra-violent leftists, the actual evidence does not support your claim, you stupid motherfuckers. You have been owned yet again. We've got one more for you, just to add it even further. This is the Global Terrorism Database data coded by the author in Rachel Kleinfeld, 5 Strategies to Support U.S. Democracy. This is a whole lot of fucking data here. So we're going from 2000 to 2020. This is all number of incidents of what they would classify as terrorism. So the lowest here is international/Hirabist. I don't even know what the fuck Hirabist means. But that's this black portion down here at the very bottom. Notice that it stays at the very bottom pretty much through the entire deal. We've got single issue, which means it could be either side. It stays pretty much just above it at the bottom. We've got unclear or unknown, speaks for itself, directly above it, all the way across. We've got far left, which is this blue here. There was almost none from 2000, very tiny amount here in like 2003, 2004, and then pretty much none all the way up to 2011. And then there's there's an uptick here, and it goes up all the way, spiking in 2016. And then kind of evens out, goes down a little, up, down, and then rises pretty drastically in 2020. You'll notice that all of these rise drastically in 2020. So, environmentalists, dark blue. There's a decent amount here, but still, throughout the entire time, it stays below the others. These pretty much stay the same over time. Like terrorism rises, but it all rises at the same time, and the proportions are still the same, is basically what I'm showing. So we can logically say that environmentalists and the far left, you can lump those together in left wing. At the very fucking bottom, you can just take these blue ones and add them together just for the sake of this entire purpose here. Now we've got anti-inclusivity. I shouldn't need to argue that that's right wing. It's obviously right wing. That's this sort of orangish red, light red deal. And across the board, it stays at its same place. You'll see. Basically here in 2015, it kind of drops to nothing, but then it ramps back up. We've got anti-abortion, which is next in line. Once again, in 2015 to 2016, it pretty much drops to nothing, but then it starts jumping up again until, again, everything spikes at pretty much the same rate. And then we've got at the very top, the far right, all the way at the top, and stays at the top. Now, I want you to notice, this pretty much seals the deal. This is all of the fucking data, or a ton of the fucking data, all proving that it's right-wingers that cause all the violence, all the terrorism, all this shit, yet they claim that it's the left. And over and over again, you get owned by the actual evidence. Now, you stupid fucks refuse to believe any sort of actual data, so you're gonna like come up with conspiracy theories that the fucking leftists fucking paid to have this shit. Whatever, like, you're fucking idiots, you're morons. So anyhow, I want you to notice 2017 is when Trump started his first term. 2016 is when he was campaigning his massive fucking run to get elected the first term. That's when everything fucking spikes like crazy. 2018, up, 2020. And 2020 is when he left. I would like to see more recent data, because I would be willing to bet that in his second term, it's risen. It's at least up here through all of the right wing, or it's at least, it's either went up or it's about the same. Guarantee it. So you're fucking owned. I believe that's everything I wanted to cover. Thank you for your time.